Hello, I'm Helen O'Hara, the Culture Challenge Manager here at Bedford Creative Arts. We've been putting together a set of skills sharing resources for cultural providers for schools in Bedfordshire. Hopefully you'll find these helpful and interesting. Do feel free to pause as you go through and perhaps ask yourself a few questions about how you're doing with that particular skill. So here we go. So first of all, we're going to cover some background about the Culture Challenge, then followed by packaging your school's offer ready to go into the classroom. Thirdly, we're going to talk about how to get buy-in from a head teacher and how to communicate that concisely. And then fourthly, some communication skills, how to get hold of teachers and how to communicate well with them. Then after that, just getting the basics right, things like DBS and insurance. And finally, planning for creative learning and getting quality outcomes. The Culture Challenge is made up of 6 different elements. Firstly, culture vouchers. Secondly, a directory of providers. Thirdly, brokerage. Fourthly, some CPD and skills provision for teachers and cultural providers. Fifthly, the challenge itself, which is a set of activities that can be done by families or by clubs or by schools themselves. And finally, Artsmark support for schools and Arts Award advice for those interested in it. So how will you package your offer? Well, firstly, there's content that may or may not relate to school priorities. So you need to think about your own creative practice. Which parts of it will translate well into a school setting for activities with children and which may not? Just be really clear about that. Secondly, the duration of activities. You need to adapt that to the age group and by their ability. So don't assume prior skills such as cutting skills, sewing skills. You need to be careful about the age appropriateness of your activities and how much support will be needed. Timing's really critical as well. How could you use perhaps the staff that are in class to do some of the preparation beforehand? Not too much, but it may be possible, for example, to send them a PDF of a resource and ask them to photocopy it off and have it ready and available. There may also be children with visual disabilities who need something on a different type of paper or larger print. Thirdly, how could you improve the quality of creative learning outcomes? Well, you could use the Culture Challenge toolkit and use it as a step-by-step guide. There are things like planning guides and booking sheets in there that you can use with teachers. And it also helps you to think about evaluation in a really practical way. Fourthly, will snappy titles help? You might be able to have some alliteration in the title of your activities, make sure they relate well to the curriculum and what school priorities will be. At the moment, those will be issues like well-being, verbal communication and teamwork post-COVID. And lastly, your charging structure. You need to review that, don't you, to meet inflation and your overheads costs. So think carefully and don't undervalue yourself. Benchmark yourself against other providers in the Culture Challenge directory on the Culture Challenge website. So how would you get buy-in from a school? Firstly, don't overload their inboxes with superfluous information. They will have hundreds and hundreds of emails every day if they're a head teacher, and yours won't be top of their priority list. Your first pitch really should be either in person or by phone, and ideally you would be using contacts that you already have through your networking. For assistance on networking, have a look at the other video about networking and pitching skills. I think you'll find that really useful. You may wish to attend events at which head teachers or arts leads will be attending. So look out on Creative Bedfordshire for networking events that you're able to attend free of charge and make sure that you make use of those contacts. Secondly, your elevator pitch. What you need to do is be able to say concisely and accurately what it is that you're all about and why a school should have you for their workshops. You could practice that for yourself in front of the mirror or ideally with friends so they can give you a bit of feedback on how it sounds natural, how you put across your enthusiasm and how you make sure that it's relevant to a school. When it comes to decision time, you should always follow up your conversation with them really soon in an email. You can offer to phone them when is the best time to give them a bit more information and make it easy for them to communicate with you. So give your availability as well. Always confirm in writing what has been agreed verbally. So how best to communicate? Well, firstly, speak the language that teachers speak. Try to avoid your own technical jargon from your artistic practice. So you will want to think about learning objectives. A teacher would need to know how this fits within their schemes of work. Assessment, they'll be interested in what the impact is on children's learning as a result of having taken part. Talk about the skills that the children will learn. So is it cutting, is it sticking, is it more like creative design work, all those kinds of artistic skills. Secondly, when is best to communicate? Picking your time is really important for teachers because there are certain times of the week when they're more receptive to you and when they will be doing their planning. So always ask them when is their PPA time, their planning and preparation time. Late on a Friday afternoon is really not going to be a good time for a teacher who will be packing up to go home after an incredibly busy week. Try not to pester them. They often do have to go back and get decisions from other people. So communicate clearly, set out what you have to say on an email with all the information they would need to pitch it to their own head teacher who will be the final approval. You really do need to get the basics right. So firstly, the Disclosure and Barring Service, or DBS as it's known for short. It's absolutely essential that you have this at the basic level. You can apply yourself. When you get the certificate, it's really useful for you to have the annual subscription and to have that on a direct debit. So it's £13 per year. And what that means is that you will get a link that you can give to teachers with your permission, and they will then check that your certificate is current and is clear. They shouldn't be asking you for an enhanced check because that would mean that you'd be in sole charge of a class of children, which would not be the case for you producing workshops in that school. Secondly, safeguarding. I really recommend that you would take an online certificate with the NSPCC. Other organisations are available. There's one called e-Academy as well. And that would provide you with the basics to do with safeguarding, knowing what happens if a child makes a disclosure to you, what you should be doing, and really having that information at your fingertips. It's important for you to know this even though you may not be in sole charge of a class, because you need to know how to react if there are any disclosures, and also how to protect children and yourself from allegations. You should be reading the school policy as a matter of course. They usually have them on their website. So if you're about to work in that school, you can ask them for their safeguarding policy and to know the contact name in case a child does make a disclosure, who you should go to. Finally, public liability insurance. This is probably the most boring, but if you were to injure someone or damage property on their site, you need to have this in place. It's a basic commitment, really. You can be asked for that certificate when you start to work with the school. And you can use the specialist companies. I can't recommend particular ones, but there are those out there for self-employed workers. How to plan for creative learning? Well, firstly, you'll want to maintain or improve the quality of the learning that takes place as a result of your activities. Have a look at our Culture Challenge Toolkit, which is available at Bedford Creative Arts on the Education webpage. And there's also a really helpful video there by Kate Judge, which will help take you through the whole toolkit. Think carefully about the key aims and also the impact. In other words, how children may behave or feel or approach things in the future as a result of your activities. You may want to think about that with the teacher as well. And then build in evaluation from the very start. Now in class, they're used to doing this. It may be post-it note votes on a board to answer questions. It may be voting with little red and green cards. All sorts of different ways to evaluate. Get some ideas from the Culture Challenge Toolkit. Secondly, use planning tools that are available on the internet or on your mobile phone. For example, there's loads of time-saving apps that you can have on a mobile or a tablet for things like invoicing, timesheet records, and also for project planning. So, for example, you can split a project with a school into all its constituent parts and set yourself deadlines, and it'll feed back to you when those deadlines come up into your diary. You could use the booking checklist in the toolkit, and that's available on the website. And what that does is it takes you through item by item the steps that are necessary when you're booking workshops with that school. So a teacher can use it or a provider can use it as a checklist of items to send to the teacher. So we've heard about communication and also talking to head teachers and pitching your offer. And we've also talked about getting the basics right. If you need to know any more, there are other resources available on Bedford Creative Arts in the Education webpage. And also do get in touch with Bedford Creative Arts. Here are some of the links available for you to see the project evaluation report for the Culture Challenge, which has important learning to take forward into the future. And also the directory of cultural providers for Bedfordshire schools is still going to be available. So hopefully you'll find this really helpful in your work. We've covered communicating well with teachers, making sure that your offer is school ready, and also some of that basic admin that you really must have in place before you work in a school. Do watch out for our other resources on this website, and perhaps you'd like to make a note of a few points that you'd like to develop and take it further using our resources. Thank you for watching and listening.